she stepped up as my wife and handled that. And it's been many times where I've been at my lowest, and she's always been the strongest to get me back up to like, get back out there. You gotta get back out there and do what you do. Don't worry about what's happening over here. I'm gonna handle that.
After 27 years of marriage, the world is witnessing what few thought possible. Shante Broadus, wife, manager, and architect of Snoop Dogg's modern empire, is walking out, and it's happening just as his name resurfaces in the long-dormant investigation surrounding Tupac Shakur's 1996 tragedy in Las Vegas. The timing, according to multiple insiders, is no coincidence. They say Shante is not merely ending a marriage, she's cutting the final tie before the fallout begins. We know Shante has been more than a spouse. In June 2021, she was officially appointed as the manager of Snoop Dogg's brand, a role that gave her control over multi-million-dollar partnerships in spirits, television, gaming, and the global market for legalized substances. For 2 decades, she quietly signed off on the deals that transformed Calvin Broadus from a rapper into a corporate institution. Yet now, as whispers of arrest warrants and financial probes circle back to his name, Shante has reportedly begun preparing divorce papers. Those close to her describe it as an act of self-protection, a step taken while the house is still standing.
She just a strong black woman off the tippy.
The story doesn't exist in isolation. Allegations and old scandals are being dredged up again. There's the 2013 federal lawsuit accusing Snoop Dogg and a longtime associate of coercive behavior after a concert, a case that was settled privately but never forgotten. There's the 2004 filing for divorce, the one Snoop himself blamed on fame and ego before reconciling. And then there's the endless reel of cheating rumors, from claims made by online personality Selena Powell in 2019 to stories of side relationships dating back to the late 90s. Publicly, Snoop Dogg laughed it off, saying he turned down a lucrative offer to appear on a subscription site because, in his own words, "ain't no way my wife would let me." But privately, sources say that remark only underscored how much control Shante held over his image.
Snoop Dogg has never been faithful to Shante, ever.
But insiders now insist this isn't just a marriage ending, it's a preemptive escape. The shift came after Suge Knight, speaking from prison on his new program Collect Call, told listeners that Snoop Dogg has explaining to do about what really happened the night Tupac Shakur was ambushed in Las Vegas. The statement was vague, but its impact was instant. Within days, threads on social media and hip-hop forums began connecting names, contracts, and motives. For years, the talk had centered on Diddy, but Suge's new comments redirected the spotlight back toward the man who had once stood beside Tupac Shakur on stage, smiling for the cameras, then distanced himself days before the tragedy.
And good thing he didn't, because even though we was friends, but it paid you. I got a bullet into my skull. And one of the best friends I ever had in life is Pac.
We can't ignore how precisely the timelines overlap. Reports about Shante consulting family attorneys first surfaced in late summer, the same period Suge Knight's remarks went viral. By September, legal analysts were revisiting court transcripts from the 90s, reminding the public that Snoop Dogg's earlier trial for a separate case had ended in an acquittal only after a violent confrontation tied to his security team. To industry veterans, it looked like the past circling back at the worst possible moment. What makes Shante's silence so powerful is her history. She isn't a celebrity chasing fame. She built her husband's business foundation. When Snoop Dogg said she was his final gut check, he wasn't exaggerating. She oversaw endorsement contracts, touring logistics, and licensing deals. She even controlled their family's scarf line, inspired by their daughter's health struggles. Every brand carrying the Dogg name ran through her desk. If federal investigators start tracing financial flows around Death Row's rebranded assets, and if any link between those accounts and the Shakur inquiry is proven, Shante could be exposed legally. Stepping away now could save her career and reputation.
The turmoil and the stuff that I put her through in my journey on becoming successful, because I had no understanding of what I was doing to her, how I was hurting her.
Their love story once felt untouchable. They met as teenagers at Long Beach Polytechnic High School, danced at prom, and married at the Ritz-Carlton in Marina del Rey in June 1997. In 2008, Snoop Dogg surprised her with a vow renewal at Charlie Wilson's ranch, attended by 200 family and friends. On paper, it was the perfect hip-hop fairy tale. The loyal wife who endured fame's chaos and and raised 3 children while her husband built an empire. Yet behind the photos, cracks were showing early. In 2007, Snoop Dogg admitted that success had gone to his head, saying he was willing to give up what I had at home before realizing what was irreplaceable. Those words read differently now, especially as new reports claim Shante Broadus has privately told associates she's done protecting his mess. We've seen the pattern before. Loyalty rewarded with humiliation. For decades, Shante ignored gossip, stood by him during trials, and even became his official manager when the industry celebrated her as a model of perseverance. But loyalty has a limit. Friends close to the Broadus family describe her mood in recent months as businesslike, not bitter. She has allegedly moved out of their main LA residence, leaving Snoop Dogg surrounded by staff and publicists trying to manage what one associate called a crisis of credibility.
The few dudes, like if we really dig, I believe we're gonna find probably 3 or 4 dudes over the years that she had long-term side piece.
Meanwhile, the backdrop is getting darker. Former Outlaws member Napoleon has reignited a long-buried narrative alleging that Snoop Dogg was jealous of Tupac Shakur's success during their Death Row Records years, and that tension between them exploded just weeks before the shooting. In interviews, Napoleon claims that Snoop's decision to express admiration for bad boy artists, while Shakur and Suge Knight were waging open war with them, felt like betrayal inside the label. According to insiders, Sugi's recent podcast comments drew directly from those old riffs, hinting that what looked like rivalry might have been something much deeper.
He had a nigga on some other shit, like, nigga, let me dress you, nigga, get you right. Suit by Dion Scott. I'm on some other shit with my nigga, like, okay.
For investigators revisiting the Shakur case, Snoop Dogg's proximity to both camps, death row on one side and friendly ties with New York producers on the other, has always raised questions. Now, with new statements suggesting there were unresolved conflicts, the focus has shifted again. Online sleuths are already pointing to Shante Broadus' sudden distancing as proof that she knows something. Her representatives have declined to comment, but entertainment lawyers agree that her withdrawal could be a legal maneuver designed to separate personal assets before any potential charges. It's a stunning reversal for a couple that celebrated their 27th anniversary in June 2024. That same month, Snoop Dogg posted throwback photos calling Shante the good to my bad. Less than a year later, she's reportedly hired a crisis PR firm. It's as if the empire they built together. The reality shows the business lines. The carefully curated image of family unity is collapsing under the weight of rumors that go far beyond infidelity. People who have worked with Snoop describe a shift in tone around him. Once relaxed and humorous, he's said to be closed off since the new allegations resurfaced. He has avoided direct responses to Suge Knight's claims, calling them noise. But privately, colleagues say he's frustrated and worried. The timing couldn't be worse. His roles on national television shows, streaming investments, and his stake in the revived Death Row Records all depend on a stable reputation. Any implication that he withheld information about Shakur's last night could destroy decades of brand building.
And as soon as I walked out of there, I went in the bathroom and I threw up. Just laid on the floor for like 30 minutes. His mama came in there and cleaned me up.
Even within the entertainment community, whispers are growing louder. Some remember that Snoop Dogg was one of the last people to see Tupac Shakur alive, visiting him in the hospital before fainting at the sight of his condition. Others recall the tension aboard that flight from New York when Shakur reportedly confronted him for expressing admiration toward his rivals. Suge Knight's words, "He has explaining to do," may sound like a passing comment, but to those who lived through that era, it feels like a loaded accusation, one that could reopen everything. And just days after that episode aired, talk of divorce began spreading through entertainment circles. The pattern was too clean to ignore. Shante Broadus stepping back, lawyers in motion, old lawsuits revisited, Suge Knight hinting at unfinished business. The coincidences form a line that points to something larger than a marital split. As we trace these overlapping timelines, the question no one can yet answer begins to take shape. Is Shante Broadus leaving the man she built, or escaping the man she finally sees for what he truly is?
When you get to be the age that we at and you get to become as successful as we are, you have to start doing some things that matter for the future.
If the rumors are true, this divorce isn't about love. It's about survival. The timing aligns too neatly to dismiss. Just when Snoop Dogg seemed to have rewritten his legacy, taking full ownership of Death Row Records in 2022, the ghosts of that label came back to haunt him. What was supposed to be a victory lap, reclaiming the empire that launched his his career has now become the very reason people are whispering his name alongside words like investigation and reopening. When he announced the acquisition, Snoop Dogg called it a full circle moment, praising Suge Knight as a real one and saying that forgiveness was part of his growth. But now, those statements read differently, as Suge himself starts pointing fingers back at him from behind bars. Every kind word looks less like closure and more like foreshadowing. Even those who once defended Snoop are rethinking old stories. Napoleon recently claimed that Snoop was jealous of Shakur's rise, that he tried to dim his light when Shakur joined Death Row and stole the spotlight. At first, it sounded like an old grudge resurfacing, the kind of talk that floats around any record label with history. But Suge Knight's tone on his Collect Call podcast has made it harder to ignore. When he said Snoop has explaining to do about what happened in 1996, it wasn't framed as speculation. It was a warning, and those who know Suge's style understand he doesn't speak unless he means to send a message.
So we made the business decision to be cool with each other, because I don't hate him, and he don't hate me.
Meanwhile, the silence around Snoop Dogg's home life is deafening. Shante Broadus, the woman who once handled every major contract under Boss Lady Entertainment, has been missing from his public appearances. We used to see them side by side. Red carpets, brand launches, television events. They smiled together at the Gladiator 2 premiere in LA just last year, still projecting that image of unbreakable partnership. Now she's gone. Her absence at recent industry functions hasn't gone unnoticed. The same PR insiders who once booked them as a power couple say her name has quietly disappeared from team emails. Sources close to the family whisper that Shante is already cutting legal ties, meeting with financial advisors to separate shared assets, and revising her management filings to limit liability. They say she's ensuring that if investigators start digging into old Death Row accounts or new streaming profits, none of that trail leads back to her. One associate compared her move to a chess play learned from the wives who stayed too long. After watching the collapse of high-profile moguls like Diddy, who now faces a conviction that reshaped the music world, Shante Broadus reportedly refuses to be the next woman seen walking into a courtroom beside a husband in trouble.
That boy life is dangerous. His life isn't, and he just not dangerous with they said he's doing, but he's in danger. He know too much.
The parallels are striking. Diddy's arrest, his empire shattered, his family humiliated, showed everyone in the industry how fast decades of success can vanish once law enforcement steps in. So when Suge Knight names Snoop Dogg publicly, and when federal agents are said to be re-examining pieces of the 1996 Las Vegas file, the question becomes obvious. Could they really reopen what many believed was a closed chapter? No one is confirming, but multiple sources inside the entertainment legal community say that with Death Row Records back in active business, every past contract connected to the label automatically falls under renewed compliance review. That means any whisper of criminal association, no matter how old, gets another look. We've also learned that Snoop's new ownership of Death Row may have inadvertently revived old tensions between former associates. By relaunching the label and its catalog, he reawakened financial disputes over royalties and creative rights from the 90s. Several producers who worked under the original Death Row banner are now reportedly being contacted by lawyers. Some have hinted online that they've been asked for statements. None have named the agency involved, but the timing coincides with Suge's podcast surge and a spike in public speculation about what really went on after Tupac Shakur's last performance.
You're gonna establish yourself as a businessman. That I wasn't taught on Death Row Records. All my cars was in Suge Knight name.
Wow.
The industry's reaction has been split. Younger artists, the ones who grew up idolizing Snoop Dogg as hip-hop's friendly uncle, are stunned. Older insiders aren't. They remember the original chaos, the tension between Suge, Dr. Dre, Snoop, and Shakur, and how quickly alliances turned into accusations. To them, this feels like history repeating itself, only this time, the stakes are far higher. Snoop's global partnerships, from television to streaming to product lines, depend entirely on his public image as a reformed icon. Any credible connection to the violence of the 90s could bring that entire structure down. As for Shante Broadus, those who know her describe her as calm but distant. She's reportedly focusing on her memoir, Paid the Cost to Be the Boss Lady, a title that now sounds like a message of its own. Her team refuses to confirm whether she's moving forward with divorce paperwork, but legal insiders say it's only a matter of timing. If Snoop's situation turns volatile, she'll be ready, financially and publicly, to step away without a trace. It's the same playbook followed by partners of fallen moguls who saw the storm coming before anyone else. She's not just leaving him, she knows everything. For over 2 decades, Shante managed every account, signature, and business tie that kept the Snoop Dogg empire standing. She controlled publishing rights, handled payouts, and approved sponsorship deals that moved millions through multiple companies. When Snoop expanded into spirits, streaming, and merchandising, her name quietly appeared in filings as the executive of record. If investigators start tracing money connected to the old death row network, Shante's knowledge of where each dollar went could become the most valuable and dangerous asset in the room.
Well, they can't drop him like it's hot. Snoop Dogg is speaking out about LGBTQ content in kids' movies.
Those close to the couple understand just how exposed that makes her. She has access to emails, contracts, and payment ledgers spanning back to the 90s, including those that bridge Snoop's death row era to his modern projects. In legal terms, that makes her a potential insider witness, the kind of figure who can confirm timelines or reveal whether business fronts were used to disguise personal debts or hidden partnerships. We've seen how similar situations have unfolded in recent industry trials, where the spouse who once signed the checks became the key to unraveling everything. For prosecutors, Shante's files could mean proof. For Snoop, they could mean collapse. It's no surprise then that she's reportedly transferring digital archives and corporate access to private counsel. Insiders claim she's working with forensic accountants, reviewing years of transactions under Boss Lady Entertainment and other ventures tied to the Broadus family brand. Whether she's preparing to protect herself or preparing to testify, nobody knows. But the fact that she's moving quietly, without public statements or social media hints, signals a woman positioning herself for survival in a story that might soon shift from tabloids to federal paperwork. And in this case, silence might be the loudest warning of all.
It's not that I want to become Snoop Dogg on a reggae track. I want to bury Snoop Dogg and become Snoop Lion.
We can't overlook the larger pattern forming: Diddy's conviction, Suge Knight's allegations, and the renewed scrutiny surrounding the old death row circle. The hip-hop elite is facing a reckoning unlike anything since the early 2000s. Everyone thought the Tupac Shakur story was buried for good, but if Suge Knight's claims hold even a fragment of truth, and if Shante Broadus is truly preparing her exit, Snoop Dogg could be standing on the edge of the same collapse that already consumed his peers. And if that's the case, her divorce won't just be personal, it will be the first signal that his empire is about to fracture from the inside. What do you think? Is this the final unraveling of the Dogg father's carefully built legacy, or just another storm he'll charm his way through? Tell us what you believe in the comments, because this story isn't done. Not by a long shot. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your minds curious. The truth in Hollywood always arrives later than the headlines.